they were telegraphing this a couple days ago. Like, hey, this is gonna happen. It's gonna be big. So they knew about it. And apparently this was discovered in GOP ran sort of opposition research sort of in their figuring out of, vetting candidates and stuff. So it's kind of interesting to me, I guess.
What are we talking about?
The North Carolina.
And imagine Blake's talking when we come on. Hi, everybody.
Yeah.
I love Blake's. Good. Welcome.
The guy running for governor in North Carolina, where CNN came out with the thing yesterday here, he was had some pretty scandalous comments on a porn site several years ago, and several sites. One where he referred to himself as a black Nazi, and there's quite a bit of stuff that some of them were like.
Roy? Was that Roy something or
no? Mark Robinson. It's the guy running for governor in North Carolina. So the only reason I think this matters at all, I wouldn't even talk about this under normal circumstances. I'd just be like, yeah, par for the course, hypocritical politics. What do you know? No one cares about any morals whatsoever unless it's the morals of the other side. But North Carolina, which was basically not in play when it was Biden versus Trump, all of a sudden is looking. It's not. I wouldn't put it in the calling it a swing state column yet, but
everybody else has been.
Yeah, well, it says something that Vance and Walz are both there right now. It's obvious that it's in play more than it was before Harris was the nominee. So you've got, I realize normally the governor is not going to necessarily drag down the presidential ticket, but I haven't looked at enough history to see how often that's happened where a unpopular, gubernatorial candidate drags down the top of the ticket. But it certainly doesn't help, I wouldn't think. And, and so that's just one more ding in a state that, should have been safe for Republicans a month ago, a little more than a month ago. Let's call it 2 months ago. And all of a sudden might not be only
your basic deep South. It kind of starts there, if not Virginia. And Virginia is way in her side.
Yeah, and Virginia is very blue. I mean, that's not anything new. Virginia is kind of one of those weird states. But yeah, it's not great, but he's of course denying it. And I'm sure this will all I think it will affect his election. I don't think it will go over well because I don't know.
So wait, what were the comments?
Well, I mean, one, referring to himself as a black Nazi is pretty interesting. That would be one of them. Talking about how he likes.
Do they wonder why the left is calling them weird? Like all of them?
Well, let's not pretend that people on the left don't have weird sexual things too.
Talk about it on porn sites when they're going to be running for governor.
Yeah, and to be fair, this was like a decade ago. It wasn't yesterday. He's of course denying it. CNN has quite a few receipts where they have, pictures of him using the same username on several things,
exactly,
like Twitter and Instagram and Pinterest. And then that same username is on this, and there's pictures of him on the other ones. It's connected to an email address he's used in the past. So it's him. It's certainly him. Yeah. And also, as if the Democrats were laying this groundwork for this 10 years ago. I mean, that's the funniest part about it, is to be like, because I guess his answer to his campaign's answer was, we're not going to get into the minutia of how someone could fake this. It would be hard. It'd be quite a long game to play in a state's gubernatorial race 10 years out to be planting this evidence on websites. So it's him. And there was a bunch of other stuff about, of course, sort of the tawdry details of what he was watching and commenting on, and some of it was pretty. It's gross, but what do you expect from a?
See, there you go again.
Comment section.
Oh, you get talking and distracting. It's 11:07. Big day today. You're hearing music in the background because our guy here in Tampa, working one of the boards for us, said, hey, have that going already? Yeah. Huge fail. Error somewhere between the chair and the keyboard. My keyboard. Good morning, everybody. 99.1 WDJY and AmericaOneRadio.com in Atlanta. In the Tampa Bay and on the Nature Coast, 1490 WWPR in Bradenton, 1340 and 106.1 WTAN in Clearwater, 1350 and 102.3 WDCF in Dade City. Welcome to those last four. This is your first day with us. My name is Jurgs, and you're going up the middle. With me on the left is Matt Deemer. He is the host of the Daily Crypto News and also the Democratic candidate for Congress in the 7th District of Ohio. On the right, Blake Fisher. He is the host of The Homeless Conservative. Figure it out. He is not exactly a Trump fan, neither of any of us. I'm somewhere in the middle. I'm an independent with a degree in history and political science from Penn State University and 21 years in the Secret Service. So a lot of the things that we're going to talk about on the show, I've seen. And actually, so have these guys. So guys, good morning. Big day today. Let me get rid of the music.
I feel like that's just going to be what we're saying every day for the next, 47 days now, right?
Yeah, this is a big election. This is a big election. This is bigger than the last time.
Oh, that's my least favorite thing that people say. The most important election of our. I'm like, weird how every election is the most important. It's very
this
strange.
time, I mean it.
Yeah, and it's yeah, we'll see. I mean, I am a little curious how turnout's going to be on this one. I actually think there's going to be some people that are just like, meh, really? Still, these are the options. We'll see. I don't know.
And I think if it's low turnout, it's the GOP side.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I think that there's a couple things about that are weird. The Democrats actually trying to get people to vote. You know, the important part of winning an election is getting people to vote. And Republicans apparently do not have that. They just think it's going to happen, apparently. Donald Trump is kind of mentioning it as a bullet point at the top of these rallies and then doing his, WWE spiel for the rest of the hour and a half. And really, I don't think Republicans are doing a good enough job at changing what happened in 2020, where Trump basically discouraged people from voting. I mean, he actually actively told people not to vote in the Georgia runoff. He told people to not vote by mail, not to vote early, not to do any of the convenient things that help, especially old people during a worldwide pandemic, vote. And he's tried to kind of walk that back because his campaigns told him to. To me, not well enough. I think that you're right, Matt. I think that if there's I think more Republicans don't show up than Democrats potentially in this election because they've either been told not to, or they've been told, people like me, like, we don't really want you in our party. It's pretty hard to get enthusiastic about that if, say, for example, the weather's just bad that day where you live. I mean, I think that there will be that kind of thing that potentially happens where you see
stop. This just in. Are you ready?
Can't wait.
Breaking from Texas. Colin Allred leads Ted Cruz. What?
I knew you were going to bring this up because I saw this morning too.
Wow.
It's one poll. I think it's an outlier. I don't.
Okay.
I keep saying this. I mean, let's go check the prediction markets. Actually, that was something I was talking about today.
Well, I mean,
is that they are trying to,
Before you join, Matt, that's what Blake and I were talking about with regards to, we didn't get to mention it yet, but Florida is close with Rick Scott, and North Carolina and the knucklehead that's running there, and what he could possibly be doing to the separation between right and left, which has already been close. I mean, I'm actually surprised, Blake, that you think this is recent. Because I mean, North Carolina, they've been talking about that.
Well,
as a state.
Yes, no, I mean, it's 2020 was pretty close, but it was still, it's been moving to where it's potentially a swing state. But like 2 months ago, people were not talking about it swinging for Democrats when Biden was on the ticket. It was pretty much solidly going to be Republican. Now, what's weird about it is it's kind of like Georgia in the sense that you are having this weird thing where, like, Georgia, went for Biden, but they elected a Republican governor. So there is this weird, there are these handful of states that are still doing that, where they're voting pretty solidly for president and maybe their senators at one party, and then gubernatorial and local legislation or legislative Congress in a different party. There's sort of this split party thing that's happening less and less in America. It's getting more aligned. Even Oklahoma used to be like that, but it's not anymore. So that's just what I'm familiar with. But yeah, it's definitely trending over the last several elections to be purpley-ish, kind of like Georgia has been doing too. But it's not. It was solidly in the tank for Trump when it was Trump versus Biden, and that has changed a little bit since then. And like I said, I think this gubernatorial part doesn't help Trump for sure, and it's especially going to hurt because now they might just if the gubernatorial race is a foregone conclusion and they're just going to abandon this guy, which, like I said, so stupid to let a guy run like that when there were rumors of this. Eric Erickson was talking about it. It was like, I heard this stuff a year ago about this guy, that there was some weird sexual stuff that would come out about him. And, so I don't know. It seems like the party's not doing their job very well if they're not even vetting some basic stuff that they know will come out eventually. And we'll see what happens.
You're commenting in the wrong chat. If I got some friends that are listening today, I'm seeing nothing in the chat yet. I don't know why that is, but I don't know. Joseph Mosley, a guy was on his show almost 2 weeks ago. He's one of the co-hosts. Is saying he's trying to get us, but it's not. You're not in the chat for some reason, but you are hearing us. So, yeah.
And by the way, on betting odds, you mentioned that the RCP average is Harris 52.3, Trump 46.3. So that's the betting odds, which, remember, betting odds.
But that's for what? Because they're tracking that on every state now.
Right. So that's just the betting odds if you bet the country. That's the who will win the election, not state by state kind of thing. Right. So and like that's like, so the three people I pay attention to the most, I pay attention to other people, but I really like Chris Stirewalt, who's at the Dispatch and News Nation, and he does the Sunday show. I like Jim Garrity at National Review and Washington Post, and Nate Silver. Nate Silver does the more betting odd kind of style thing, and the other guys do just more the traditional looking at polls and battleground states and stuff like that. Nate Silver essentially says he thinks it's a 50-50 coin toss right now, post debate. It is.
Yeah, but
Harris is gaining for sure. And to me, that's the momentum matters, because she's got some more momentum than Trump does. I think Trump is, most everyone that I read says this election is Trump's to lose, but they're like, he's doing all the right things to lose it. He's, saying crazy stuff in the debate about people eating dogs and cats. He is not getting out the ground game. The Republican Party doesn't seem to care about that. And, so he's doing a lot of the things that could cost him the election. It's not that Harris is necessarily doing everything right, although I do think she is doing what her campaign's asking her to do, which is essentially stay out of the spotlight. And if you are in the spotlight and do an interview or something, say the exact same thing you say all the time, as if you're on a teleprompter. You just memorize the prompter instead. No matter what the question is, you say that you grew up middle class and that your neighbors liked their keeping their lawns up and they were proud of their lawns, and tell the same story. It doesn't matter what the question is. You say the exact same thing in the debate, in the interview. It doesn't matter. It's kind of working. So I can't.
We said this before, though. We said this earlier this year, that whoever stays out of the media.
Yep.
And this is back when Biden was still in.
Yeah.
Whoever stays out of the media wins.
Yeah, you're right. And I think
that's actually statistically not true.
You don't think so?
No, correct. Agreed.
No. Normally, yeah, I would agree. I think this year, when it was Biden versus Trump, I feel like that was the case, because basically if you were being talked about in the media, it was for bad reasons, because they were both so bad. I think Kamala's inherited a little bit of that, because I just don't think she's that talented of a politician. And so it's kind of the same game with her that they were doing with Biden, is like, try to hide her. Don't make a big splash. Don't make any huge gaffes. As long as she doesn't make any huge mistakes, which I don't think she has. Everything that they're going to be able to use as a clip of her in a commercial is mostly from 2019. Some of it's a little newer than that. I mean, now they're running ads for the stuff about her saying she wants to give transgender surgeries paid for by the government to illegal aliens on a survey when she was running in 2019. I think that hurts. It's hard to say, this is what I said a few years ago, and now I don't think that anymore.
You said on a survey?
Yeah, it was one of those, how
it was 2019, and this is my point about all of this stupid stuff. Do you really think that's a good idea to put on that survey, whether you're for it or not?
Well, that's why a lot of people don't answer those kind of candidate surveys that these groups send out. A lot of people just don't answer them because it can be something that bites you in the butt later.
Yeah.
This was, I think that was an ACLU survey. Was it ACLU?
Yeah.
That did it? Yeah. And
It
so,
was.
that's a big organization. That's not just like some college, survey.
And that's something that she's very much for, is the ACLU.
Right. And so maybe she felt pressured. I mean, Democrats, obviously, ACLU is absolutely in the tank for Democrats. And so maybe Democrats in a primary felt like you have to answer that survey. I don't know. And that was 2019 was weird because, as I've said, I think every candidate thought the lesson learned from 2016 was we have to be all in on all this crazy progressive stuff. And I just don't think the country wanted that. I think it was very clear that they didn't. And so now everyone's got to move away from that. But that's why you shouldn't say things you don't believe. I mean, if you really want to get down to it, just as a politician, I realize sometimes you got to fudge a little bit, but you should not answer. If you really don't believe that, don't answer yes, I believe that. And if you really do believe it, don't change your mind later. I feel like I know that's wishful thinking to think that politicians won't do that, but.
Well, I'm okay with a politician changing their mind.
Me too, but give me the reasons. Like, tell me why you're in charge. Like, I don't even care if her cynical answer was, I'm not for banning fracking anymore because I've got to win Pennsylvania. Like, I think that would be an honest answer. Or even just say, hey, it's important. I was running.
It can be worded a little bit more tactfully.
Of course. Yeah. No, have someone else fluff that up. But say it. Like, just say, give us the honest. I mean, you could say it like this. When I ran for Senate in California, a very blue state, that's a different set of constituents that I was representing. And now I'm trying to represent the whole country, which is very 50-50. And a lot of the people, and a majority of the people, don't believe in banning fracking. And so those are my constituents. You can say it like that, but don't just but answer the question.
Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that. And I don't even think there's anything wrong with that look, Tim Walz is the same way. When he was a congressman in a redder district, he governed in a different way. He was the most moderate congressman in
that's my point. The one and I say the one, I mean, not the guy, because it could be a woman. The one that steps up there and says, here's my platform. I don't know, because you haven't told me yet. As they point to the camera or to the crowd they're talking to, or because that's their job.
Yeah, but I wanted a little bit. I don't want that tail wagging the dog kind of situation. I don't. Yeah.
You see my point, though?
No, obviously we don't. That doesn't work, Yergs.
But they've got to say that they've got to admit that you don't work for me, people of the United States. I work for you.
True.
And Ted Cruz's problem. That's why he's behind right now.
Well, also I think people just don't like him. I think.
Yeah.
I think that's the problem with Ted Cruz. But yeah, I think that's a weird thing on give and take, because there's a lot of argument about should politicians be totally chained to what their constituents want. I don't think so, because most often the people, like, we're sending people to Washington to be informed and know things all the time so that I don't have to.
There's going to be a time when they know more than us.
Exactly.
And it's their job to properly convey that.
And I think that's the trick. That's what politicians, I think, should do a better job at. And talented politicians do this, is they say, look, here's the situation. Let me explain it to you in a way that you don't have to know all this. You don't have to know all these details or pay attention to this every day. Here's why I think we should do X for this problem. Because here's the problem. Here's what I think the solution is. I think that some of what politicians are supposed to do is that. And right now, it's that whole quote about like, they're the people go and I got to go that way too, because I'm their leader. And I think that is really a bad way to do politics, because people are dumb in large quantities. We don't know we think we read one article and we're experts. What?
And they want to fit in more than anything, I think.
Well, and it is a popularity contest. So it when it all boils down to it, it's what it is, and you've got to get votes, and so you're desperate to not lose any votes. You don't want to piss anyone off. It's tricky, but I wish just we had a presidential candidate that could explain these things a little better. I will give RFK Jr. some credit on that. I mean, I think he's a lunatic and I don't like him at all, but he would get out there in his speeches and say and explain things very basically, not talking down to the audience, but just not expecting them to know the things that he knows. And I just think he does a better job at that. And I wouldn't say he's like some genius politician. Obviously, he's not done great.
Right. I mean, he's from a family. You'd think he, would have rubbed off.
But he picked up. He obviously knows some stuff about going. Here's how primaries work. Here's how this works. Here's how this part of the government works. Or here's how this is. And Trump just goes out there on a debate and says, my favorite part of the debate was him going, well, you watch blah blah blah, and he mentions Jesse as if everyone all 67 million people in America watching that debate. No, he's talking about Jesse Waters is that his last name? That's on Fox, took over Tucker's spot. He drops him like by the first name as if, that guy's got maybe 3 million on his best night watching. 67 million people are watching that debate. That's 90 something percent of them don't know who he's talking about. And he just takes for granted. And I think Kamala Harris does this to a degree too, because she's not great at this either. They think everyone that they're talking to is as online as they are. And they're just not. Like, people are not that online when it comes to politics. It would behoove the parties to find candidates that could explain things better to people.
Yeah, 100%. We got to take a break. When we come back, we're going to go through the long list of topics that we would have hit on right now during the intro part, and also Pierre's Pot, 99.1 WDJY, and 1340, 1350, 106.1, 102.3, and the rest of the Mastiff Media Network. We'll be back after these words. Where is it? There it is.
Do you have a podcast? Of course you do. It's probably one of the reasons why you listen to us. Well, I got something for you. Flowsend.ai. All you do is take your pre-recorded data, click, drag, and drop right into the inbox for Flowsend AI. Click a button, and out comes everything that you're going to need. From the transcript to content such as keywords, titles for your episode, the timeline, posts for LinkedIn, posts for Twitter, Instagram, other smaller platforms, all the things that it takes you hours to do in literally minutes. So go to flowsend.ai. Tell them Jurg sent you and get your subscription today. Worth every penny. Flowsend.ai.
So how have you been feeling in the past, economic, post-COVID, whatever? You need to get back in shape. I did. I took the past year and a half off from the gym. Not a smart move. Those of you who are not just joining already know, been in like counseling and trying to get out of a rut. One of the places you can get out of that rut is this place called Momentum Fitness and Wellness. Formerly Monster Mouse Fitness, Momentum Fitness and Wellness on US 19 in Jasmine Estates, Bayonet Point. That's my gym. I don't know if you know about like internet radio and podcasting, but those broadcasters actually support the sponsors, as do I. Momentum Fitness. I always get these backwards. Momentum Fitness and Wellness. Jasmine. I couldn't find the notes. I'll admit it. I had to wing it. Jasmine Estates and Bayonet Point. That's the B word. At least I give them more than a minute, you know? They've redone all sorts of equipment, upgraded, got new, renovated, took over other businesses inside the shopping center that they're at, and expanded. They've got new workout space, indoors and out. And those ice water dunk tanks that are all the rage right now, they've got them. They've got my thing. I've always been about the heat, saunas. They've got saunas now, massage therapy, all kinds of actual wellness. Imagine a business that's living up to its actual name. Go figure. You want to get that Hernando Beach body or keep it? Momentum Fitness and Wellness, Bayonet Point. All right, let's bring the boys back out. After I screw up a live commercial.
It's fine. Am I supposed to be hearing music still? Okay, no.
No, it was still on.
Yeah.
Where is the...
I'm hearing like talking in the background though. Is that just me?
I think so.
It's gone. It was there. I don't know. Maybe I'm picking up a
What's
radio
that?
signal on my headphones or my fillings. I don't know.
Well, you know, I have an earpiece in because I was actually listening to the live feed from the Tan Talk Network and from 99.1, and you know, I switched back and forth to all of them to just
I was
make sure.
hearing a woman talking, so I'm either going crazy or there's some sort of interference. So tune in to find out which one.
I don't hear in my head. I still hear the damn music, but
I hear some lady talking about, I don't know, something. Anyway,
what
it's probably
it
just
was?
me. I don't know. No idea. It's probably
Yeah,
something. on my-
Matt's on, but his camera's not on, so that's why he's not appearing. But you could be still hearing something there. Maybe his mic's hot.
What first, Jurgs? What are we talking about?
So, for the first time in what was it, 30 years, the Teamsters are not endorsing a candidate for president. And
No, a
apparently,
Democrat
the
for
Black
president.
Caucus of the Teamsters are not happy about it. They're saying that the boss is, let's see, where's my... They're saying that the boss is not showing the actual leadership, and that, or the what today's version of Jimmy Hoffa is not showing the leadership. It was something like 51 or 58% for
58.
Trump.
Yep,
What was it? What was it, Matt?
58.
Yeah, like
Trump.
double.
So how? I mean, you know, I don't think anybody here would like that result, but how is that not enough to place the endorsement? How much does it have to be?
Well, I think that's the problem, is that you've got this realignment going on with the parties where Republicans are starting to get this kind of working class thing shift to them. And at the same
I
time,
think it's going to be very temporary.
well, I don't know. We'll see. It's hard to predict. It's hard to know how much of this stuff is Trump, and if Trump's not here, does it stick around or not? It's kind of hard to tell. But it is weird that if you took that poll, which was, I looked into it, it was an externally, it was like a polling. It wasn't just like a survey they sent out via an email or you click the thing or something. It was a legitimate survey group. Don't know anything about the methodology or how many people they surveyed, but you know, there are only 7 states in this country that would be more red than that. Look, if you look at 2020's map, and that's so overwhelmingly their members are supporting Trump. I think they're just in a kind of between a rock and a hard place of they traditionally support Democrats. They haven't not endorsed a Democratic candidate since 1996. But their members don't want that. And I guess the vote internally with the leadership was 14 voted to not endorse anyone. 3 voted to endorse Kamala Harris, and no one voted to endorse Trump. So there's obviously a huge discrepancy between where leadership is and their members.
That's the word I was just going to use.
Well, look, a non-endorsement is an endorsement, as well as an endorsement is an endorsement. So, I mean, people are saying, well, they didn't endorse. This is the same thing as endorsing in endorsement terms. If you stop an endorsement, then you block it, you're pretty much winning. And that's what the Trump campaign did, is they won this endorsement for the most part. And how do you
going to Kamala?
by it not going to the traditional Democrats, they basically won this endorsement, and they did this in a couple of ways, in my opinion. The first one is that when they were doing the interviews, they asked some questions, and look, first, Democrats support unions more than Republicans traditionally, and that's pretty much, and so But during the past couple of years, I think that the Teamsters, especially during the railroad strike, was really a little upset that the government stepped in, and a lot of their members. So I think that this is a big win for Trump, and something that I think that the Democrats really have to figure out what's happening here, and that's more of a constituency issue as well.
Yeah.
But it's a win. It's a win. I mean, anybody who's the favorite to get the endorsement, and if gets their endorsement blocked, that's a win for the Trump team.
Yeah, I wonder if it makes a huge difference in the margins if you've got that big of a, like, if you know what I mean? Like, if 60% of them were saying they support Trump anyway, if they would have endorsed Kamala Harris, does that actually swing any of their members' votes? Because that's really what we're talking about. That's the only reason any of these organizations do endorsements, is that they're hoping to sway the people. You know, it's the same idea. It's hey, we looked into this, and here's what we think is best for us and you as a member of pick it NRA, if it's like a membership thing like that, or if it's unions or whatever group you're part of, and you know, you get this kind of endorsement thing or ratings. A lot of people do of like congressional members. So it seems like they just punted. They're like, well, we don't want to piss off our members, who obviously you're kind of going against. But they did. Yeah.
But they didn't.
They because
didn't,
Black Caucus
didn't.
And the Teamsters are outright independently, essentially, endorsing Kamala Harris.
Yeah, because the local people will still do, like, local will still do stuff. It's just the national big ones. Not
there's the local. I mean, there's local Teamsters that already endorse Kamala. I mean, look, the Democrats are for unions, and they're trying to pass the PRO Act, and that's pretty simple. But I mean, in O'Brien's defense here, and I think that he should have endorsed Democrats just for the PRO Act alone. I understand that they're upset about the railroad strike, and I was actually upset that they interfered. I mean, they could have let them negotiate a lot longer. But how do you balance that when you have a huge proportion of your members saying that I want to vote for this person, and you know that they're not good for your organization?
Yeah,
I mean, and then how are you going to be the leader of this organization? And then we just talked about this when it comes to constituency just about 5 minutes ago. Said like what you want from a representative is to go out there and say, hey, constituents, what do you want out of your Congress? Well, he's going to his people and saying, hey, what do you want out of your union? And his union was like, I want you to endorse Trump. And then everybody else is like, but they don't support unions. What do you do?
Yeah.
I think the whole appeal to Trump is this: the economy's better with him. Bull crap.
I don't think it's bull crap. I think that's people's genuine feelings. I don't think it's bull crap.
Well, it's their feelings. I don't think it's an accurate. If they do a little bit more,
I think it's accurate. I mean, I'm not saying it. Here's the problem: presidents promise all the time that they're going to fix economic problems that sometimes they don't have control to do, and they get blamed for it, because if you're trying to take credit for it, you're going to get blamed when it's bad. No, there's no doubt. Like, when you ask people, were you better off 4 years ago than you are today? A lot of them feel like the answer to that is yes. And
you know why that is?
It's because they had more. Their money went further because inflation wasn't a thing, and because
why else?
I mean, that's the biggest reason.
4 years ago, they did have the end of Trump's tax cuts for the middle class that expired.
No, they expired this year. In 2025.
Yeah, they expire this year.
They expire next year. They were yeah. So they're not expired yet, and they're popular because Kamala's embracing almost all of them. Almost all of the tax cuts Democrats are now for.
I think another conversation that needs to be had around unions, and everybody's like, well, why? Why would they support Trump? I mean, look, I'm endorsed by the UAW, but over here in the Ohio area, we had lots of, for example, Brook Park is one of the best examples. I mean, Brook Park was one of the richest cities in Northeast Ohio because of the Ford plants. Everybody worked at Ford. Union was strong. The average income for a household back in the 70s, adjusted for inflation, was like $80,000, $90,000, $100,000 because you worked at the Ford plant. And now that
is that two incomes?
That's single income.
That's probably single, yeah.
Wow,
that's a single
adjusted
income.
For inflation, adjusted for
and so while the UAW and the unions support Democrats across the board, I can see how people that are in unions and in these towns and they see jobs leaving and their union membership going down and the strength of their union and their towns and whatever becoming because of taking their jobs to Mexico is a great example, and them going like, is this working anymore? Is this maybe there's something else here that we need to be looking at. And I think the Democrats really have to lean into that and address that. And I don't think that there's anything wrong. And one thing that Republicans, actually, one thing that I did back in my last time I ran, and Tim Ryan did, and honestly, I think he copied me. Literally, he made his platform after me, literally, but whatever. Is talking about, reshoring our supply chain, reshoring our manufacturing jobs. And this has been a theme for the past 4 years. And that speaks to these towns like this. So when you say, oh, I don't know why unions are, I mean, I would love to see the Teamster union make up the towns that these people live in. One thing I know, it wasn't the Teamsters UPS though.
I don't know all the I don't know enough about
Teamsters. Truck drivers and yeah.
So the UPS just had a huge win. My grandfather,
truck drivers, mechanics, positions like that.
My grandfather was Teamsters. He was a truck driver. He was a beer. He delivered beer for Genesee, from a Genesee truck for 40 years.
I don't even know what Genesee is.
Sad, bro. You don't know. If you don't know the cream ale, man, you gotta get out.
I don't drink beer. Or much.
You don't drink beer.
Nah, I've got a local brewery that I like.
Haircut fits you.
It's for me. It's allergies. I get like the seasonal allergies. So if you get that, you also can be allergic to like things like hops and things like that.
The antihistamines, it's a thing.
I'm a bourbon guy.
All right, so we can skip something. I got to go back.
I was going to say one thing about the unions. I think that a big problem is that people are just going, what have you done for me lately kind of thing. And I think people have very short-term memories and stuff. And you're right. Democrats have traditionally supported unions more. I think just those individual members are going, do I really feel like they're doing anything for me though? And obviously a large majority of them feel like Trump helped them more than Democrats did. And so it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Because
that's what makes me crazy. Ask Carrier Air Conditioning how much Trump helped them. In the last weeks of the 2016 election, he said, I will keep your jobs here.
Yeah, this is all.
Within months after the inauguration, they were all in Mexico and the plant was closed.
I think the problem is that politicians keep trying to promise stuff that they can't do. Like they can't keep the jobs here if the jobs are moving out of here. That's just it's not possible. And we misunderstand a lot about manufacturing specifically in the United States. And how it's affected and what we're manufacturing and what we're exporting versus importing stuff. It's very complicated, but when people get up there and just promise like your jobs are going to stay here, they don't have that kind of control over it. And so, yeah, they're going to get blamed when that doesn't work out the right way. I think it's foolish to overpromise.
Yeah. Underpromise, overdeliver. We skip something. This is usually closer to the beginning of the show. In honor of Pierre Robert of 93.3 WMMR, Philadelphia, a radio DJ hero of mine. I'm trying to look at the camera and look at the notes too. It's not happening. He's been there since 1981. We toast the morning sauce today in the direction of our good citizen, something he's always done, which is, of course, Usually coffee. I would think Matt does the protein shake. Lola Wagenvord and Val Silver, the owners and GMs of Tan Talk Network and WWPR, the terrestrial stations that host us in the Tampa Bay. Ladies, thank you for everything you've done for us. This is our Pierre's Pot to you, the toast of our morning sauce in your direction. Thanks for everything, and here is to a very productive radio relationship. Thanks again. Do you guys not have anything to drink today?
Water.
Oh, there it is.
Agua.
Just hydrating.
I'm baby agua over here.
It was 98 degrees here yesterday. It's still freaking hot. Gotta hydrate.
Yeah.
68 today here. 60.
So my title for that last segment was Teamsters tap out, meaning, they've tapped out and aren't participating this year. And apparently the Senate GOP is tapping out as well. I got to actually pull this one up. Sorry. Do you remember that one when I put it in the chat?
This wasn't about Cruz, right? Or what was it?
No, this is the one about the vote.
Oh, the IVF?
Yeah. They block legislation again to guarantee the women's rights to IVF. Have they not learned? Are they not paying attention to the media about how anti-abortion?
Can I ask a question, Jurgs?
Go.
What state is IVF illegal in? Where is it anywhere that IVF is not possible in the United States right now?
That's kind of my point.
Why do we need a bill to protect it when no one's trying to take it away? There's literally no bill.
Whoa.
Who's trying to take it away?
True.
Point to it, Matt. What state is trying to take away IVF access?
Well, same argument
Donald Trump
in the 80s and 90s and the noughts and the 10s about abortion because it was settled with Roe versus Wade. Stop.
No, I'm serious.
That should have been a constitutional amendment a long time ago.
Okay, then should we also pass the SAFE Act that the Republicans tried to pass and Democrats blocked? Should we pass that?
You just conflated two different issues.
They are the same.
We could talk about those if you want to talk about the logical reasoning that I just applied to say why we should be talking about this to make sure that it is protected. Then yes, we should apply that to protect laws that we think could be eroded. But if you want to conflate two different things, IVF and the SAFE Act, together as one certain thing, then you're actually a total stretch and a little bit out of line with that conversation.
Okay, let's talk about it then, because here's what I think the commonalities are. They are both bills in search of a problem that doesn't exist right now. We don't need the SAFE Act because it's already illegal in the Constitution for people that aren't citizens to vote. That already is settled in the Constitution. We don't need another law that says that. That makes it kind of pointless. And it's a way.
And why do the Republicans keep talking about it?
Because
so you're saying that IVF is in the Constitution?
No. But what I'm saying.
So you're conflating again two different arguments. But one that says stated explicitly in the Constitution and one that is not.
Well, hold on.
You're asking why should we pass a law to protect?
Not only are we on the air in 4 new stations today, making today rare, but it's also a rare day that I actually agree with both of you.
I know, but let me finish, because here's what I'm saying. The difference is they're both Republicans and Democrats trying to get the other people to vote against something because it's pointless that they can then run on for an election year. These are things that would never come up if this was 2023, not 2024. And the reason, and my point is, show me a state that is trying to let illegal people vote.
Another straw man argument from Blake today. Imagine things coming up during an election season, and then he goes, "Well, it didn't come up last year, therefore it's not important."
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Blake, another straw man.
Political nonsense. What they're doing. This is not. No one is.
I just heard yesterday. Oh my God, the Fed dropped the interest rates by 50 bips. It's because the election's coming up.
No, that was
okay. I'm sorry. The election's tomorrow.
That's not why. That's not the same thing. I'm saying.
Now they're up for elections because Kamala's going to win now.
Matt, show me one state legislation that is trying to ban IVF, or one person, even one politician that's saying they want to ban IVF.
I will do that when you show me an argument that's not a straw man.
How is that not straw man? I'm saying why do we need to pass a bill to protect something that no one's trying to take away? It doesn't make. I don't understand what the problem is. Like why? Like this is not This just feels like it's a gotcha thing.
Oh,
because who's trying to take away the people's rights to use IVF? This whole IVF thing has been.
See, that's the part where I disagree with you, Matt or Blake.
Who's trying to take it away?
Oh, come on.
Well, no, I'm saying you got to point me to someone that has said they want to take away people's right to IVF, a politician or a legislator.
This is the whole thing. This is why Trump got as far as he did, was because people on the right that are most susceptible to believing his BS failed to see the forest through the trees. Matt, jump into me. I'm right. Blake, reach over and check in for a pulse.
Who, Matt?
No, me? I'm here. I'm just getting the list of politicians that have called or made statements on IVF. I'm sorry, excuse me. Since Blake likes to make these straw man arguments with grandiose statements, nobody has ever said the thing.
No, but I'm saying show me.
That's
I'm trying to show you. But come on, Blake. I mean, that's just dishonest to say nobody's ever. Come on, man.
Well, okay, no one is seriously talking about. I'm sure you can find some loon, okay, but there's not. Okay, but there's not. I've seen no state legislatures. It's not illegal in any state. No state has proposed even legislation like that I have found, and it's not been proposed at the federal level. So why are we trying to protect people for something no one's trying to take away? That's my
proposing reversing Roe versus Wade all that much until somebody else came along.
No, people have been trying to. I mean, that was a 50-year movement of the pro-life movement, was to reverse Roe. That was not a surprise that was what the pro-life. I would never have said that no one was trying to reverse Roe versus Wade. Like, there was a large group of people that worked for a long time to do that. That did not happen overnight. And you're right that Democrats could have, or anyone could have said, "Oh, well, we've got to put this in law, so it's not just a Supreme Court decision." That's fine or whatever, but I'm just saying this is not, I don't think this is a necessary thing right now, because I don't see that there's any evidence that anyone's trying to take away people's right to use IVF. I just have not seen. I mean, Donald Trump's talking about he wants the federal government to pay for IVF. Now, I think that's also ridiculous. I don't think that we can afford to.
But Donald Trump has been going back and forth like a tennis match.
Well, no, yeah, I mean, he has no real idea. My point is
championing the fact that he's the one that reversed Roe versus Wade.
But the leader of the presidential nominee, and I'm not saying I agree with him. I'm saying he's saying he wants the federal government to pay for IVF.
Everything. Stop everything. Matt's texting me in the private chat some notes.
I'm seeing it, yeah, but like,
where are you from, Blake?
I know, but concerns over the creation.
Republican, where are you from?
I understand. That he's proposed.
Senator James Lankford, Republican from Oklahoma, has been vocal about pro-life issues and has expressed concerns over the creation and destruction of embryos in IVF.
I think we can have a
conversation that right now.
We can have that conversation. That's a different conversation than banning IVF. You can have concerns. Do you understand? Do you guys even understand what the Supreme Court case, or not the Supreme Court, the Alabama Supreme Court case was? How this whole thing started? Do y'all have any reference for what actually happened?
Go ahead.
Okay. What actually happened was
educate us, and then I'm going to educate you about one of your own senators.
I know him. Okay. I understand what you're saying. Having concerns about creating embryos, if you believe life is created at conception, then yeah, those are human lives. And that's a concern we can talk about. The concern in Alabama specifically was the family sued the fertility clinic because they accidentally destroyed their embryos. So in their opinion, they killed their children. So this was you're right, it's a pro-life thing, but it wasn't someone trying to prevent a family from doing IVF because of the embryos. It was the family was trying to sue the fertility clinic because they accidentally destroyed their embryos. And what this turned into was hey, do we need to regulate this more? Because I do think we need to talk about that. We need to talk about, do there need to be certain rules about what those clinics need to be able to do? Because I think these are concerns we can have. You can have concerns about something. You can not find me a source that says James Lankford has presented a bill that would ban IVF or has even said he wants to ban IVF. Having concerns for what are we doing with those embryos and what's the long-term plan here, and should there be some sort of limit on that, or should it be regulated, is different than saying we want to ban IVF. You cannot find me someone that says they want to ban IVF. Or at least not someone. There's plenty of nuts that probably do. An elected representative, a Republican, the Republican Party, like I said, Donald Trump saying he wants to pay for it. I just think this is the same as the SAVE Act, because the Republicans are doing the same thing with the SAVE Act. They're going, well, then why can't we just put these protections in place to make sure? And Democrats are going, it's unnecessary. To me, it feels the same thing. They both feel unnecessary to me.
Imagine making the case that this is just a dog whistle when multiple people are on the record saying that life starts at conception and having IVF is life at conception. So therefore, Alabama can classify these as children, and saying that there is nothing to even think about, worry about, or talk about when it comes to passing laws that protects a couple's right or the ability to conceive children in IVF or plan for the future of your family with IVF, and saying that this is all a dog whistle, and trying to get yourself in knots to try to convince us that this is a dog whistle. I mean,
this law has nothing to do with saying where does life begin. It doesn't say anything about the protections. Alabama, according to my reading of it, could still pass a law that says those are protected people, and so therefore you can't delete. I don't know what they do exactly in this process or whatever, but
say delete.
Well, whatever. They just I don't know exactly what happened in Alabama, but they had some sort of power failure.
Imagine he's over there, he's sitting at his keyboard. He was supposed to press said Command C,
but the point
Command V, but he pressed.
Is that fair to say that
was Command Z? Oh my goodness! He copied.
But is that fair to say?
He didn't copy.
But Matt, is it fair to say that family was right, that their embryos deserve the protection that they don't feel that they got from the fertility clinic? Because that's what this all started with. And that's the thing that most people don't understand, the nuance of it, is that people do believe that life starts.
I think. Well, first of all, I don't talk down and say that we don't understand the nuance. Second of all,
I didn't even know that.
It's in the notes.
What the hell are you talking about? First of all,
I'm saying, did you know that most people don't know that that's what that Supreme Court thing was in Alabama, was that the people thought it was about
in more general terms.
Yeah.
I think in more general terms,
apparently Blake's the only person that reads on this podcast. I'm gonna tune out until I read a book, and I'll come back after I read a book, Blake.
I'm just saying, you're calling.
I think more people do know that the biggest thing about when life begins, because the Bible actually says both, which really, it's not a historical document, contrary to how it's pushed, and that's coming from a Christian. It's a collection of fables.
Well, you can look at
science. Says life begins at conception, and also life begins at birth. So there's not consistency.
Well, but here's the thing about life. Here's the one thing you have to, if we're going to talk about abortion, IVF, any of this kind of stuff, you have to admit scientifically that if you take that embryo and obviously place it in a womb, it will develop into a human, right? So, to me,
so will my sperm.
No, your sperm will not
increasing. No. But in one sexual act, I'm not increasing the world's population by 100 million people.
No, but your sperm is not a fertilized egg. It's not a person. It takes two parts for that.
Neither is a fertilized egg. It's a fertilized egg.
An embryo is, though.
It's a fertilized egg.
An embryo is not a fertilized, but an embryo is a human being eventually. If it goes
eventually, so is my sperm eventually.
No, because
mine. I'm gay, but.
It would still work scientifically. My point is the science. My point is everything that Matt just put in here says we need to talk about regulations. I think there should be regulations on this kind of thing, on the clinics themselves, on what they can and can't do. Just like we do with lots of other things that we regulate. I'm okay with talking about what kind of regulations there should be. That's quite different than saying that someone wants to ban IVF. Some people saying that there should be regulations. My gosh. I think we have too many regulations across the board, but I'm open to talking about regulating things when I think it's necessary for the government to get involved in that. This seems like something that's worth at least having that discussion. I just don't think we need to preemptively say, oh, this is blanket protected without having the discussion. And so, it is different than the Save Vote Act, because you're right. It's not in the Constitution for IVF stuff. My point is that they are both things that are only going to come up in an election year. No one would try to pass this next January because the issue will be dead and gone. And this is this is a way to try to separate the parties, and the Democrats are smart for doing it because they have on the abortion thing, more of the country is on their side than on the Republican side right now, which is why Donald Trump is trying to switch sides too. And he's essentially a pro-choice candidate at this point. And that's going to be an interesting realignment too. We'll talk about the labor
probably
union.
bite him in the ass.
Well, I mean, yeah, it'll be another interesting realignment. If there's no, I mean, if Trump wins, I think there will be no pro-life party anymore. I think you will have two pro-choice parties with varying degrees of what they want those limits to be. Well, I mean, if the top of the, I mean, I don't believe that Donald Trump is pro-life. I think he was pro-life because he had to be in 2016, but I don't think he really has any principled reason that he is. It was just it was transactional, and which is what I've said this whole time. I'm like, he will throw any issue under the bus.
Yeah. So 11:58, we got about 2 minutes left on some of our stations. Once again, welcome. I got to scroll up here. Once again, welcome 1340 AM and 106.1 FM WTAN in Clearwater, Florida. 1350 AM and 102.3 FM WDCF in Dade City, which is, east and then kind of northeast of Tampa. It's how we are really getting the entire Tampa Bay and much of, if not all, of the Nature Coast. Coming up next, we'll be joining up with 1490 WWPR from down in Bradenton. Those of you listening from the Tan Talk Network, you can switch to 1490 WWPR.com or Yergz, YERGZ radio.com and continue for another hour. Fridays, we go for 2 hours. However, on those various stations, we only go for... Okay. And that goes for 99.1 also, by the way, WDJY. You can come over to Yergz, YERGZ radio.com and pick it up there. We'll be back right after this. Yep. Hey there. Good afternoon. 1490 WWPR. If you're just joining us through there, we just said goodbye to 4 new stations that are now part of the Mastiff Media Network, also in the Tampa Bay. The Tan Talk Network is now part of the Mastiff Media family. They are with us for the first hour. And as we grow, we'll add them to the second hour as well. You can get them at tantalknetwork.com. And also, I think the other URL is tantalk1340.com. As well as, of course, 1490 WWPR.com or 1490 AM. We're also on AmericaOneRadio.com in Atlanta. In that first hour, we're also on the FM station, 99.1 WDJY. for both of these 2 hours, we're on that America One Radio, as well as the UG.media, channel XL. Now, where's that focused? London, England. That's right. We're across the pond. Not to mention also, of course, Rainbow Radio, Yerg's Radio, all of our social medias, and the rest of the Mastiff Media Network. Let's bring the guys back out for hour number 2. There's one, and I guess the other one's going to come back from the potty break or whatever.
He's got to pee, probably. All that, all the hydration that we're doing.
I've been just sitting here.
I've been
sitting here. I thought you forgot about me.
That's your camera wasn't on. That's the transition we have to do now. We're a big deal.
I like it.
Sort of. So the next station, by the way, we're talking with Las Vegas. And I'm trying to get even if I got to do just like Spotify ads and Google ads and whatever in other swing states. But I've been looking, Matt, for something in your area. And it just seems like, I don't know. It just seems like they're more ethnic, like different ethnicities, the stations that are brokered that we can buy on. It doesn't seem like there's really community stations that
we can use AI to translate this into Spanish, and then
yeah,
heck yeah.
Seriously,
there's
another station in Long Island that's interested in us, but for like $250 an hour, and we wouldn't really have much of an effect there because it's pretty much for Harris. I don't think. What are you smirking at?
I'm in my head just trying to translate. Good afternoon, everyone. And Yerg's Radio up the middle and all in Spanish. I think that'd be hilarious.
Mio.
Yeah.
Yerg's. I love the videos, by the way, on like Instagram of it's generally like Hispanic people having their parents try to pronounce
hilarious.
Oh my gosh, like
absolute gold.
Stuff. It's one of this, and they're just it is so funny for some reason. It's like they'll just give them like all the like Subway, Home Depot, Walmart, and like have their parents who were not born here and have the much thicker Hispanic accents like pronounce these different words and stuff, and it's so funny. Like what it's like Home Depot. I mean, it's just I can't do it any justice whatsoever because I don't have the accent, obviously, but right. It's just kind of a cute, funny thing. It's
Well, that's what George Lopez talked about in a comedic skit he did years ago, how not everything translates into Spanish.
No, it does not. Especially like English language.
We're talking real fast in Spanish, and all of a sudden you hear him say Walmart.
Yeah. They kind of put a G in front of sometimes, like Walmart. It's pretty great. I love that kind of stuff. I think those kind of things are funny. It's like I don't want us to all be the same. I like accents and stuff. It's fun.
My beef, though, is like with the Latina. What is it for like
No, not doing that crap. They hate that.
Okay, so the what do you call the Spanish-speaking community?
Latino or Hispanic, technically. So Hispanic really means they speak Spanish. So that could be they're from Spain. They're from any country that speaks Spanish. That's why Hispanic is such a bad demographic that we do in polling and stuff, because it's very, very different people just because they speak the same language. It's like saying us and English people or Canadians are the same.
Saying Western European.
Yeah, it's really dumb. It's just very, very broad.
Right. Okay. So they're speaking in English to a predominant Anglo, which is also very broad, but white guys community. But then they'll say their name and it'll be in the Hispanic accent.
Right. And I think that's pretty normal.
Right back to talking about Walmart or the news story or whatever in a non-Hispanic accent.
Yeah.
And it's annoying because if you have that much control over it, why not just be who you are and use the Hispanic accent?
I think the goal behind that is not the accent. It's that they're trying to pronounce it properly for the original language the thing was in. So you see this with Middle East coverage too. Most of us Americans will just say like Iran. I mean, we're not pronouncing it correctly at all. And it's fine.
And Yev.
Or
how many years have we been saying Kiev?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It's been Kiev.
And so you're trying to like, and the truth is, there's a weird. My sister is actually a speech pathologist, so there's this weird thing that our brains do. This is just, if you want a little science today, is your brain, as you develop your language skills, you cannot hear the subtle differences in someone's accent when they're speaking a different language. So you might think you have the accent nailed. Like you might think that you sound exactly like the other person, but your brain literally cannot interpret the nuance in what they're saying. So you will still sound like you have an accent, which is why
I never
trust me. After 15 years living in China,
right? The same thing, especially when you're talking about like China, which is a tonal language, and so we really can't, as like Americans that speak English, we cannot even hear those things that are the subtle differences in Chinese, and they can't hear the differences in ours. So it makes for really, I think, funny kind of stuff. But yeah, the people that are well trained in media will sometimes try to be, I think, overly impressive by trying to.
They remember Obama with the tan suit conspiracy. The other conspiracy was that he's like some kind of like terrorist insurgents because he said Afghanistan properly.
Right, he said it correctly. Yeah, and he was just trying to do I think
he was trying to do the right thing.
In Pakistan, he said that.
Yeah, in Pakistan and Afghanistan. Yeah.
But my beef with it though is I want to learn the person's name, even if I have to learn it more so in English, so I get that essentially the spelling of the name mostly correct. But when they switch over to that accent
that I can't do,
you might as well not say it at all. I have no idea what you just said.
Yeah, I think most people are dumbing down a word so that we dummy English people can pronounce it. That's generally how it's going. I mean, it's like Germany. That's not what they call their, in a country. I mean, like we've been doing this for a long time. I don't like when people pretend that it's racist.
I don't know if you guys know, but China's not called China in China.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so there's all these same thing.
Right?
Yeah.
Huh?
Xin?
No, it's Zhongguo.
Yeah. So there's all these things that I think most people are just trying to be polite and say it the right way. But you're right. It is a weird thing where you're like, whoa, you just like went into this weird different accent for that one word. Yeah. So
isn't Japan Nippon?
I don't know. I have no idea.
It's something like that. Yeah.
Like I don't know. I appreciate it. I think that there's this phenomenon, especially in China, and it drives me crazy that Chinese people they adopt an English name, and then next that's how they are, but that's not their real name. And so you never, and it's weird because it's almost this layer of never really getting to know them because they say, oh yeah, my name is Frank. Like, dude, your name is not Frank, man. Yeah. What's your real name? Well, it's hard for you to pronounce. Well, why don't you give me a shot so I can call your name? Or they put their last name last, like how we do it, instead of first, like they do it. And it just totally mixes everything up. So they just they kind of like westernize and dumb down their names and a lot of things.
The other thing with particularly Mexico is their middle name is actually their mother's maiden name.
Yeah.
Isn't that a thing too?
Yeah, I think in all Hispanic and Latin countries, that's kind of like the thing.
It's very popular.
Yeah, my girlfriend was Basque, and her middle name was her mother's middle name. Yeah.
I love the scene in Horrible Bosses.
She's from where?
Spain, Basque. She's Basque.
Oh, okay.
But I love the scene in Horrible Bosses where they're on the support with the OnStar people or whatever on the car, and it's like clearly a guy in India, and he says his name is George or whatever, and they're like, "Come on, man, what's your real name? Tell it to us." And then they none of them can get it right. They can't pronounce it right, and he's trying to tell it to him, and they're like, "Okay, we're just gonna call you George or whatever."
But it's true. It's like, at least give us a shot, man.
They give it a shot, and they're like, "Okay, never mind. We'll just call you the other name." I thought that scene was hilarious.
But the thing about this is like you're never gonna get cultural integration. I mean, not integration. Let me see here. You're never gonna get into a culture if you don't put that work in of hey, yeah, like Elizabeth is that came from somewhere. Marie came from somewhere. All these names came from somewhere where it's just like, okay, they started to, and now we know the other names like maybe Julio.
Yeah,
it's not Julio. Or we see somebody's name Jesus. We're not like, oh, hey, who named you Jesus?
Jesus. Yeah.
Did you ever hear that Howard Stern bit?
Say what?
The Howard Stern bit with the now late Leona Helmsley, the one voiceover actor he had was actually a guy that did all of his woman voices, and one of was Barbara Walters and Leona Helmsley. And Barbara Walters comes into the Waldorf, which at that time was owned by the Helmsleys, and wants to interview Leona. And while she's in front of Barbara Walters, the one hotel guy, the one employee, she keeps calling Jesus because she knows that's what his name is. But then the moment Barbara Walters leaves the room, she calls him Jesus. Is it? And the guy says, "No, my name is Jesus." Then why's your name tag say Jesus? Because she's not friendly to her staff. And then Barbara Walters comes to us, "Hey, Seuss, could you get Barbara some water, please?" Did all of a sudden, magically, she knows the proper pronunciation. But that's why I'm not a professional comedian. Anyway. So in the first hour, we talked about Teamsters tapping out and the fact that they're not endorsing anybody, at least in mass. And then have we solved the world's problems with IVF and abortion?
No, but we can definitely move on from that.
One quick question though: did one of you try to say that it's in Project 2025? Because it's not. I think that just should be clear that it's not.
I don't talk about Project 2025 because it's like 1,000 pages long. And
everyone else loves to talk about it. It certainly has some dumb ideas.
I didn't read it. I'm not reading it.
That's not one of them in there.
Without getting back into IVF, and that was me, by the way. So if it's not, then I'm fine. I stand corrected. But everybody is trying to tie Project 2025, 2020, 2016, 2025. I mean, it's been in all of them to Trump, who, of course, as we now know, denies having anything to do with it.
As if you can tie Trump to any policy. I think it's pretty funny. In the fact that everybody at the Heritage Foundation, when this was written, were former Trump people. Oh yeah, I mean, it was absolutely ex people of his. It's just that Kevin Roberts goes and says something stupid on a podcast, and you're going to get the
and even though he denies having anything to do with it and not knowing anything about it, he's mentioned by name, not in generic terms as in like the next Republican president, but with the presumption that he will be the next Republican president. More than 300 times. That's once every 3 pages.
Well, yeah, but they always assume that's what they're always doing with this kind of thing. They normally just don't release it before the person actually wins.
But if somebody is going to use my name in any document one time every 3 pages, and it's more than 3 pages, I better know about it. And it better have my blessing.
Yeah, but that's not how this works.
Unless it's a sealed criminal indictment, which, obviously I wouldn't know about. But I can pretty much roll the dice and say we don't have any of those floating around right now yet. I mean,
no, but that's how these think tanks and foundations work. They've done this since 1980. It's just that what they did in 1980, and this is the same organization, by the way, which I don't think. I mean, I think they've absolutely lost.
Heritage Foundation.
I don't like the Heritage Foundation anymore. But I mean, in 1980, what they did was go, okay, let's take Reagan's principles and the things he's saying he's for, and let's craft sort of like some of the game plan. And let's have arguments of people saying, here's one side, here's another side. Like basically give him a thing that if he wins, we can go to him with this and say, here's kind of some stuff that we think you might want to look at. That's what they've always done. The difference this year is that they got over their skis, and Trump kind of needed the Heritage Foundation to win in 2016. It's kind of interesting. Once you like tag yourself to a candidate that much and you're going on podcasts talking about this, 6 months before even the election, that to me is what the problem was. This never would have been a thing, except that Kevin Roberts goes out there and says
it sounds like it sounds like they're trying to stiff arm Trump, to be honest with you.
You mean Heritage Foundation?
Yeah.
No, I think they got stiff armed by Trump. I feel like.
Well, I think that was, but I think that was the dynamic of politicking at the point. They come out with this, and they put it out, and basically they're trying to make the agenda for Trump, hoping that Trump would roll over and just say, okay, this is the things, I'm going to do it. Trump comes out and it starts going like, look, guys, slow your roll here. Like, I'm not going to sign off on that stuff. Yeah. Which it looks like that's what they were trying to do. They knew exactly what they were doing.
That was my whole point.
Yeah, you're right. The dynamic has changed, though. They need right. Trump. Trump doesn't need them anymore. And so once the dynamic switches, you are like, what's funny, like JD Vance is like in the forward of Kevin Roberts' new book or something. It's going to be pretty hard to distance yourself when your vice president is in the forward of the book.
My other theory was it was a way for them just to test out ideas to see what really catches hold and not. It's like, hey, let's see what works, and then Trump will use what works and what doesn't work.
Well, and there's quite a bit. I've not read the whole thing because you're right. It's 1,000 pages. It's ridiculous. I've just kind of like skimmed some stuff and looked at. There's really quite a bit in there that's like, here's an issue. Here's some different opinions on the issue. It really isn't like a policy proposal on every single thing. Some of it is like that. Some of it's dumb. Some of it's like boilerplate Republican stuff. But really, a lot of what to me is so dumb on the Democrat side of things, and maybe it's not dumb. Maybe it'll work. I just don't like when people are like, oh, here's all this scary stuff that's in there that's not even in there. It's like, yeah, well, let's just talk about the things that are actually in there that you think are bad ideas. I think that's totally fair to do. It's just not fair to go in there and be like, well, they're going to ban IVF. It's like, you can't find the word in vitro fertilization or IVF anywhere in the 1,000 pages. So that's the part that bothers me is it's like, it doesn't have to be, it's not the evil, crazy thing that I think the left is making out to be. I don't think it's the thing that Trump has got a stiff arm the way he has. I think Kevin Roberts.
It's crazy. It's crazy. But here's the thing about all of that. Here's the thing about all of that. You can shelve Project 2025. You can say Trump doesn't have anything to do with it.
Right.
Because if you look at Agenda 47, it's a Cliff's Notes version in Crayola crayon of the same document.
I mean, yeah, but that's because most of it's just boilerplate Republican stuff that they've supported for the last 40 years. That's the reason there's like that overlap obviously is going to exist. Now it's existing less and less because Donald Trump is trying to take the Republicans in a direction that says everything that came before me was crap. And that's why
it's existing less and less because he doesn't have the cognitive skill to handle 1,000 pages.
Well, he also just doesn't have any.
He would have already read thousands of pages every day when he gets the White House briefing.
Yeah, he has no principles. He has no ideals. Donald Trump is the only choice he ever makes is what's good for Donald Trump. That's the priority number one. If it also happens to help the party or happens to help the country or whatever, great. But if it's not good for Donald Trump, he's not for that policy. That is his.
He does not give a shit.
That is his policy guideline. Is it good for me? If that means being pro-life is good for you at the time, it will be. If that means being pro-choice is now good for Donald Trump, that's what he will be. He does not want to be locked into any sort of document that says this is what our policy platform is because he doesn't have a policy platform. That's my biggest problem with him is that he's a kite in the wind. And I don't, tell me what issue he's more conservative on than any of the people that ran against him in 2016 or this year. And there is no issue that he's actually conservative on because he's not conservative. Like that's the problem. He has no ideals. He has no principles. That's why it's foolish for anyone to try to anchor their ship to him. He is a kite in the wind.
No. Well, first of all, it's foolish for them to do that. But I think that it's also not foolish for people to be cautious of that because you're right. He doesn't have any ideas or beliefs. So if you say, if he gets into office and the person that has the most, sway with this, he's going to be like, oh, okay, I'll believe that. And what's concerning, we don't know where that is, what is that line? There is no line.
And that's my biggest problem with a second Trump presidency. People go, well, the first one worked out.
That's
fine.
Your biggest problem?
No, it is. It's because in the first administration, I think he hired people that push back on stuff and push back on his instincts, and he won't do that this time because he learned his lesson. He doesn't want people to tell him no. And so that's why I do think first of all, the first Trump presidency ended in a coup, or a coup attempt, an attempt to steal an election. I think that's pretty bad. but you see a bunch of people that quit his administration on January 6th or resign because of what happened on January 6th. He's not going to make the mistake of filling his administration with those.
So wait, Blake, are you voting Kamala this time around?
I mean, the truth is my vote does not matter in very, very red Oklahoma for president. It just really,
that's not what I asked.
I don't think I will. I mean, the reason I didn't vote Joe Biden,
but you're not voting Trump.
Yeah, I won't vote Trump either. I mean,
are you going to vote some third party, or are you just not voting?
We don't have unless someone is on the libertarian ticket, we can't like write in people. I mean, that's probably what I would do. I mean, I didn't vote for president in 2016 or 2020. I did not think either one of the candidates in either one of those years rose up to the level. I would have probably voted for Biden.
That's dangerous.
Well, I mean, that's fine.
It's dangerous.
All right. Why is it dangerous? I think
you're right. And knock yourself out. But you say that Oklahoma doesn't have enough to break the.
Yeah, we will not have a county that goes blue.
Okay, fine. But if you're making a statement about voting for some third party candidate, or if you did have the capability of writing in, why not make the statement and vote for the one that actually does have some sensibility? I don't agree with Kamala Harris on everything either. In fact, I don't think she should be the nominee either.
No, I think this is an interesting discussion because I think we put a little too much emphasis on what our vote means sometimes. I think that at the end of the day, we're taking the information we have right then. I think that too often what we think about voting as is...
Matt's not agreeing with you already.
No, that's fine. What I'm saying is that I think... I'm not saying voting is not important. What I'm saying is that I think we attach too much emotional crap and baggage with it, where we say, okay, now that, like, for example, this happens all the time when people do switch and vote for a different party or something like that, or write in someone, and then they go, okay, well, you voted for Kamala Harris. Now you've got to like support everything she says from now on. And I think there's this weird thing where people have this tie to, like, they try to interpret more out of it than I think is really there. Because for me, it's in the moment, I've got two choices most of the time, and here's the information I have, and based on that information, this is who I think should have that job. The reason I don't want to vote for Kamala Harris is because I think it's important to send, if I want to send a signal, if we are talking about votes as signals that we can send out, I would rather send the signal that says neither one of these candidates are qualified enough to get my vote. I think my vote is important enough that you should give me a qualified candidate. If you don't give me a qualified candidate, I don't believe in this lesser of two evils thing that we keep having to do. And if we keep letting that happen, if we say, okay, we just got to pick the lesser of two evils because you have to, we're going to keep getting these kind of really crappy candidates.
Look, I agree with Blake here. And I agree with Blake, but I also want to just, I think, expand on this a little bit because I don't like the lesser of two evils argument. And I also don't think that you should have to vote. Vote for one of the two parties and say that, the third parties are. I hate that argument too. It's like, well, you're just wasting your vote if you're voting.
I don't buy that.
I don't like that either because there's
right now at this point you are now.
Wait. Let me finish yours. One second. We're gonna go back to that because that is a very good point too. But I think that saying by Blake saying that I'm not going to vote or is part of my protest to these two candidates. Also does not work because you remember what happened in Michigan is they had a the undecided movement or whatever. Or
for the primary. Yeah.
Right. Well, I can't remember what it was called. It was unsomething. Anyway. Uncommitted.
Yeah, because that's the option they have, I think.
It was uncommitted, but that was an organized movement of protest. You just not voting, and they're not going to read those undervotes and say, "Oh, that was a protest." They're going to read those undervotes and say, "This guy didn't vote because he doesn't give a shit."
Well, no, but hold on.
I think you would have to organize something that says my undervote represents this, and I really want to hear yours. So, Blake, give yours a chance.
Yeah,
yours.
Hey. Well. The whole third party thing, if we are considering a third party right now, a month and a half before the election, it's a wasted conversation. Kennedy did the right thing. He got his notoriety. He got a lot of points out, and they're being talked about.
Yeah.
And now he backed out because there will be people that voted for him that are throwing it away. Now he's saying, here's where we got to go, one of these two, and he went for Trump and yada, yada, yada. 6 months ago, a year ago, he needs to be a bigger part of the conversation. Regardless of where he's polling, a third party isn't going to get the publicity that a major candidate is going to get. So when you have a debate in November, a year before the election, that third party needs to be a part of it. And instead of having 20 candidates on stage for Republican or 20 candidates on stage for Democrat, who, if they had the foresight necessary to be president, they'd be able to see they're never going to be president.
Well, yeah, but running for president is now a
replace
vanity
that
project.
Replace that spot with, what was it, Andrew Wang
Yang.
or Kennedy Jr. Yang.
Yay with
Right?
Yay with a Y. Yeah.
Yeah, it is with a Y. With Yang, with Kennedy Jr., with Beto O'Rourke. As to the independent,
Why Beto? He's such an empty suit. But go on.
well, he's independent now, I think, or whatever.
Wait,
But
Yang is you said Yang is an empty suit?
No, I said Beto was an empty suit.
Oh,
Yeah.
Beto's. Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
I was like
Yeah.
Beto, like Yang was at least bringing. You're right. Yang was bringing interesting points to the conversation. I think RFK Jr. brought some interesting points, although he's I think a lunatic.
like
No,
having
Yang
one-
was. I just want to defend
was
Yang
certainly
because Yang really gets it. He's made. I think Yang has made some bad choices of how he's gonna go after his presidential run, like running for mayor and getting his butt handed to him. Bad choice.
It's not serious.
And I think everybody thought that he had a good shot, but he got his butt handed to him. And now he's just falling out of relevancy. He missed his opportunity. But with that said,
he's a driving force behind what is now the Forward Party.
Yeah, but tell me the platform of the Forward Party.
The Forward Party, I think.
And I don't agree with this, but the biggest thing about the Forward Party is they want you to stay with your current political party.
Which was something before the Forward Party endorsed me last cycle, by the way. And so,
Yes.
and the whole thing was,
Nice. Cool. I think it's a good move. I think it's a good idea. I just think it's time for them to step up and say, here's our candidate.
No,
Yeah,
I think you have to. I think you have to have a platform first, and they don't really have a
Yeah.
platform.
Right.
What they're trying to do is
wait,
There's this
guys.
consensus.
I've known the Forward Party and have talked to Andrew Yang multiple occasions. So they did have a platform. It didn't work. They had the Forward Party, and the Forward Party was supposed to get candidates, and they had Forward Party candidates. That didn't work. Now they're trying to team up with other candidates to see who they can get in there and kind of use their Forward Party as a political pack to create influence.
Yeah.
Look, not my point. My point is going back. And anyway, I think the Forward Party it had its time where it could have been something. It isn't, and that's sad.
No label, kind of the same thing. It's like I think
Blue labels had their opportunities. They didn't. Green Party had their opportunities. Again, they're just floundering. It's sad. It's sad.
And the
Anyway,
Libertarian Party is like the actual party itself is an absolute just like joke of it's not even a real thing.
and that's what happens when you have libertarians do anything. It's like hey, it's like I'm just gonna.
Yeah,
be
it can get
libertarian.
a little crazy when you go to the fringes of
You
that.
can do
and
anything
take
you
over a
want.
party.
We don't believe in anything.
Going back
You
to
can do anything we want and do nothing at the same time.
I want to
But
say,
wait,
okay, go on. Yeah,
But I just want to go back to Andrew Yang because I think he gets it's easy to clown him, but I read both of his books and I followed his campaign very closely during the presidential race. He was literally one of the only people talking about the shift of the male demographic and how they're going to start voting Republican.
Mhm.
He was one of the only people who was talking about AI and automation and how that's going to shift the way that people and people's work and what jobs are going to be and how to protect wages in the future. He was one of the only people who was talking about like the truck drivers, the largest employer of males in the country, and how that shift might be rolled out. Like this guy was ahead of a lot of things that we should have been talking about 10, 15 years ago to try to make plans about what does the future look like for Americans, jobs, the economy, and protections to all of this. And the fact is everybody keeps clowning him, but we should go back to his books that he wrote 15 years ago, read them over again, and start thinking about those plans in the future.
No, and I want to be clear. I'm not clowning him. I just thought the Forward Party itself was not going to work because you're not going to get a coalition behind you if you don't have some sort of ideals that unite them. It's not like it seemed like it was more like these are bad and Democrats and Republicans and we want something else. But you do, I think a third party.
Well, they did. They had UBI, and so that was one of their biggest But
I mean,
I agree.
It wasn't enough of a platform to get a coalition behind it, and so
I agree.
Yeah. So to go back to the voting thing, though, to be fair, I vote. I don't not vote. I just leave the presidential part blank. I'm not voting on that part, just like I would leave any other part blank where either I didn't feel informed enough about it or I don't like the two candidates. I mean, that's normally the reason I leave something blank is because I go, neither one of these people are qualified to do the job that I'm saying. So it's like if you were hiring for any other business and two candidates came in and were awful, you wouldn't say, well, I got to hire one of these.
I agree with you. Yeah. Well, if you only had two choices, sometimes you do because you have to have somebody in your spot. But sometimes you do.
Yeah, but for me, I'd rather send the signal that like, oh, look, Oklahoma got more votes for down ballot things than for Donald Trump, which means Donald Trump.
That's my issue. That is my issue because unless you organize it, it means nothing.
Well, it doesn't mean nothing.
That's my point.
But it doesn't.
That's why with Andrew Yang writing 2 books, that's equally as useless. Nobody reads books the way they listen to podcasts.
I don't think that's true, Jurgs. I don't think that's fair.
I think that's also a stretch. He was agreeing with me, and now I got to go disagree with him. That doesn't seem fair. But
look back to 2020. There were plenty of races, including in Pennsylvania and Georgia, where we were really close, where down ballot Republicans got more votes than Donald Trump did. To me, the signal that sends is that there are plenty of people that are willing to go vote, and they're voting for other Republicans. They're voting for down ballot Republicans, but they didn't vote for Donald Trump. And that either means now, of course, we don't know if they voted because we can't see individual ballots. So we can't see, oh, this person voted for their congressperson that's a Republican, but then they voted for the Democrat or did they leave it blank? We don't know. But we can look at the totals and go, the down ballot, county commissioner got more votes than Donald Trump did. Well, that means that people obviously in the Republican Party that don't like Donald Trump. And to me, that's the signal that we're supposed to send the parties, but the parties don't have the
Republican Party.
Yeah. And so to me, the thing on Kamala is that the reason I would have probably voted for Biden because I thought Trump was that bad of I don't want to say threat, but I mean, I think he's a threat. And I think he's also a threat to lots of things. It's not just the democracy thing. It's like, I don't like what he's done to the party. I don't think it's conservative, et cetera, et cetera. But I didn't because I thought it was unserious of him to pick Kamala Harris, who I thought was unqualified for the oldest president we have ever had. And, the vice presidency mattered to me in 2020 more than it normally does because I thought, there's a very good chance this guy, and I think we were proven correct, is not qualified, does not have the mental capacity to do it. So I think she should be the president right now. I've said that a lot of times. That doesn't mean I would vote for her to be the president. I still don't think she has shown me that she has the chops to deal with what's coming next. And frankly, I don't want to endorse that by voting for it.
I have a couple questions about what Jurgs has brought up here. Podcasts are currently more popular than books in the United States. I would like to I would love to do a couple of things because I think that might be misleading. First of all, it says print books. Is that print books sold mean audiobooks as well? And the second question I would have is how many books reach a certain amount of readers compared to how many podcasts reach a certain amount of readers, our listeners? Meaning that are there 100 popular books with 10 million copies a piece, and is there 100 podcasts with 10 million listeners, or is the good book getting more readers than the good podcasts?
I'm pretty sure the podcast is very top heavy. Podcast, most of the listeners,
it's like Joe Rogan is like taking, so it's like there's huge.
I don't know what the actual numbers are, but you're right.
Podcast numbers are harder to track too because we don't have sales data. It's not a scanned UPC.
Well, you don't need it because there's an immediate podcasts have what's called a play, which is one of two things. Either it's a download that you put onto your device and you take it with you for later. You may never listen to that episode.
Right.
But the industry presumes that because you've taken the time to put it on your device and taken it off the internet, that you will.
Yeah.
So the creator gets credit for it.
Yeah.
The other type of play is called a stream. And that's if they listen to the podcast right there on the spot, the moment that they've connected, and they do so for at least a minute.
Yeah.
That counts as a play as well.
I would say that they're both pretty
popular.
popular.
What ebooks like Kindles and iBook and so on with the iPad. I don't know what that classifies because I think they are all right to download.
Right, and I don't think anyone has any data on if anyone's read any pages of any of those ebooks. I don't believe.
Yeah, or even the actual books. They bought the book.
Yeah, we don't know. Like,
did you read it? So it's like podcasts are such a low commitment. It's like I turn it on. I
that's
skip
why
to the
with
next
books,
one.
it's not. They don't tally the number of books read.
Exactly.
They say that this author has sold X number of books.
And then we could talk about libraries who will buy 5 of the book, but they might be read 10,000 times.
Yeah. Yes,
right.
There's some weird stuff there that you can't. It's not exactly apples to apples, but it certainly is. I would never say that books are irrelevant. I think books are the best way to go into a subject specifically. Is what I tend to do with books. Is like it's like
I say both of you need to have the experience of having a learning disability, and learn to appreciate audiobooks.
Yeah, and
I agree.
My learning disability prevents me from doing audiobooks. So we've got the opposite. Like I can't do audiobooks because I can't pay attention to them. I drift off and I forget where I'm. So like for me, I have to physically read. That even happens when I physically read. But
the headphones are what keep me focused.
I can do that for podcasts,
for
only if I'm driving or like cleaning, doing mundane tasks. I can't even do a podcast if I'm checking my email. I can't.
Oh no, me and audiobooks is a mundane task. I mean, I'll go mow the lawn, do the dishes.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff.
Do a project. 100%. I can't read an email and still audiobook. What are you, a freak? Who does that?
I know some people that like listen to podcasts all day when they're at work. I'm like, I couldn't.
I know a guy on my Thursday morning call that I do. Just yesterday, I talked to him. In fact, he emailed me again today because his podcast is going to be on York's radio. I know a guy, Thomas, who listens to podcasts, listens to audiobooks at 2 times the speed.
I do 1.8 a lot of times, and sometimes
I'm up there. I'm about 1.5, 1.8.
My wife is like, how do you do this?
Yeah. I mean, what are you listening to? The Chipmunks?
For me, it's just about I have less time to listen to podcasts than I used to because I'm at home all the time. And like I said, can only pay attention when I'm like driving, and I just don't drive as much anymore. So when I'm driving, I'm like trying to get through a podcast as fast as possible.
Imagine being so stressed for time that you're speeding up your podcast. You're like, I got to lost onto this. I'm driving home and I got to get this done before I get home.
Because, like I said, if I'm cleaning around the house,
you or evaluate your life, like. So that's not the reason to listen to it to 2x speed, man.
Well, it's just I just can't listen. I just can't listen when I'm like at work and stuff. So I obviously
like his reasoning behind it is, I get it. Okay, get on with it.
You know, I don't even know what you do. I didn't know you had a job.
Get on with it.
Who, me?
He increases the speed at which that creator talks.
Yeah. What hold on. Wait. What do you do?
This.
You said at work.
Yeah, this podcasting. That's it.
Oh, well then okay, that's what I thought. And I was like, You said, well, I can't listen to him while I'm at work. Like, what do you mean you can't listen to him?
Well, I meant like my brain, if I'm working on something else, like, so even if I'm like, editing videos, I can't, like, even if I'm not doing anything with text, I can't also have a podcast going in the background. It just doesn't.
But are you hearing this, listeners? Mastiff Media reaches out for teams of professionals. Blake, Matt, me, we all do this from home. This is our gig.
Yeah.
We're not some weekend warrior guy that has an iPhone in front of his face.
Although nothing wrong with that, if you're doing it well.
No, I know a lot of people have done that.
The only thing I like about podcasts is that it is so cheap to do. I was talking to some people yesterday. I was at this like whiskey tasting thing, and they were like, we were talking about what I did and stuff. And they were like, so is that like hard to get into? I'm like, no. I'm like, you could buy an $80 microphone right now. I mean, you don't even need that, but like, you could buy $100 worth of equipment and release a podcast. It costs almost nothing to actually do. Yeah. Now, it doesn't mean it's going to be a good podcast.
Which is bad too, because what you do is you have a flood of podcasts. So
it's
like to get your that's another issue. It's like, how do you get yourself saw in like YouTube's the same thing, is how do you get yourself seen in such a crowded area? Some people have niches though, and some of the niches are absolutely hilarious. Like this is like one of my favorite channels right now is Garage Gym Reviews, and Coop. He is like he just said, okay, I'm gonna review garage gym equipment.
That's
cool.
I
love it.
Right?
I love it.
But here's what's interesting about that. So going back to politics, so we've super niched down all of our entertainment.
With all of that, how do you monetize?
Well,
for how long have you been?
I'm not. So there's the answer on that. So I don't know yet.
That's misleading though. Then you're talking about that, and I get the whole fake it till you make it, because I've done the same thing.
Yeah.
And I'm only now becoming monetized.
Yeah.
But I also have a pension.
Right. Yeah, I have other income.
When I have that conversation, I say, this is what I'm getting into for the past 4 years, but it will be another source of income.
Yeah.
It sounds to me like you're telling people that you're in podcasting and you just let it at that, which I'm not innocent of in my past, at least, and let them think, oh, he's got a tech company.
No. I'm going to push back on that, because first of all, it's none of their business. And second of all, it's like,
if you're having a conversation at a cocktail party.
No, because I disagree, because what people are trying to do.
We're not talking about having a hobby.
No. What they're asking is how do you make money? And let me figure out what you say for your job to how much money you make. That's what they're saying. So because you don't say the thing that they want you to say, they start putting in their own inferences, like, oh, he doesn't have a real job, oh, he doesn't make that much money, or oh, he has a lot of money. That's none of their damn business. That is none of their business.
Blake's taking the time off to go to a whiskey tasting, and he tells people he's a podcaster, okay, so I don't recognize him.
Right.
Maybe he's not the next Joe Rogan. But there are more than 3 million podcasts out there.
Yeah.
I'm sure at least one other besides Joe Rogan is making maybe not his hundreds of millions, but at least decent money.
Oh, a lot of them are making a lot.
He's making a living on it.
Yeah,
a lot of just got to sign that $100 million deal.
Yeah, no, I think
but my point. This is not a source of income for you yet, Blake, right?
It's still my full-time job. It's the thing I'm working.
Exactly. It really doesn't matter. Again, the reason why people are asking is they want to quantify their self and project it to how much you're making compared to them. That's why they ask this question. They don't care about what you do, your profession, or they don't want to tell you about your expertise. They are sitting there. Well, they might care a little bit, but what they're really asking is how much money you make.
Can I do it too? Is what they're really asking.
Yesterday's conversation.
Everybody wants to get rich quick. Nobody's willing to take the time that we have to do this on a daily basis, and not only to do the amount of time that we do in front of a microphone and a camera, but how many hours will we be sitting at these same desks, not with a camera?
It's not a 1 hour a week job for sure. No, I mean, I think the problem,
my point about that is, I'm a huge fan of the Homeless Conservative. You know that. And same with Daily Crypto News. All three of us here are professionals, even though we had the same conversation when I was a baseball umpire. The difference between us as good high school Legion, college baseball umpires, and the guys in some of us, not all of us, but some of us, the good ones that get playoff games and such, compared to the guys in the major leagues, is that we have the added pressure of having another job to go to.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Right. Some of my colleagues were that good that they were major league quality. They actually did it. There's things. I was a guest earlier this week on another guy's show who, by the way, is a much more experienced and polished version of us. He's solo, but he's an independent. He talks mostly politics. He's not about getting in somebody's face right away and the whole anger porn thing that David Beckmeyer talks about. But he's not afraid to administer some tough love. And after I was a guest, we joined through StreamYard, very similar to the stuff we use. I just sat there in the backstage portion and watched and listened. And I saw how much more polished he is. And I realized that's why he doesn't have to go buying his time like we're still doing. He's in the next step, which is called bartering. Bartered radio, meaning he's in profit sharing. They get advertisements automatically because of who he is. A guy named Brian Shapiro from a podcast called Pushing the Limits. Great work. He actually had a guy who's running for president on yesterday or the day before. And he knew he was BS, but he gave the guy his 15 minutes of opportunity. And the guy blew it up, sucked, because he's going with all these off-the-wall conspiracy theories that he's going to fix. And like we were saying about, guys at Andrew Yang's capability, unlike Andrew Yang, it wasn't something that we should actually be talking about. This guy wants to take the minimum wage federally to $30 an hour. Now, what do you think that's going to do to the menu at McDonald's?
Yeah, I think we could have a discussion about that for sure. It is interesting, though. You're right. Like we've niched down so far. It's interesting that we still only have two parties. It's kind of a weird thing where everyone has their Netflix queue that's like super niche, and their Spotify is now super.
Well, this goes back to the George Carlin joke, right? He's like, it's a perception of choice. There's 36 flavors of ice cream. There's 26 flavors of bagels. Yeah. You have all the cereal in the world, but when it comes to the stuff that's really important, you only have a couple of choices. There's only two major parties. There's only a couple banks. There's only a couple media companies. There's only a couple people who are making energy. But everything else is a perception of choice. You can choose all this BS, but when it comes to the things that really matter, you don't have a choice.
Yeah, and I think you do have a choice too. It's just I think what we're seeing is the cracks in the parties coming from people that think that their niche of the party is the more important part, and we're not building coalitions anymore, and that's the real problem. Is that's
a good point.
We're not saying, okay, the Democratic Party and the Republican Party both used to be these huge coalitions of people that might actually disagree with each other on a lot of stuff, but it's like, well, okay, we care about your thing and we care about their thing too, so we're going to be a big tent. No one's trying to do that anymore. That's why Kamala Harris and Donald Trump are not really talking about the issues. They're desperately trying to get people into their fold without pissing anyone off. Because it used to be that you could, have a give and take, and that doesn't exist anymore. And so that's where my vote lands.
Do you gotta go?
I do in a couple of minutes. I gotta get to my kids' class early today.
Okay. So. These private chats don't have timestamps.
Yeah,
so I think you gotta go in 5 minutes, and I didn't notice. Okay, all right. Well, we got 10 minutes. Let's do that then, because that way everybody's talked about properly, and you can get Matt and continue all of these conversations by contacting Matt at the Daily. Sorry, I'm trying to read this from the screen and it's too small. I got to get my readers out. Matt at dailycryptonews.net. So for those of you just on radio and listening to me fumble, I'll say it again. Matt at dailycryptonews.net or info at diemerforcongress.com. DIEMER for Congress.com. And obviously pick and choose which one you use because they have very distinct different purposes. Blake is at thehomelessconservative.com, all common spellings. And you can get his podcast. What do you do weekly, right?
Weekly on Wednesdays. And I talked about Kamala Harris finally put a policy page up on her website. So I talked about her and Trump's policies and compared them this week because not that anyone cares about policy, let's be honest. But
yeah, well, but that's good that you do that because we got to steer people in that direction.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the stuff that matters, and we got to start doing this like a prom queen contest.
Exactly. And Matt's is daily, hence the name, Daily Crypto News. Definitely informative stuff. Did he leave? What'd you do? There we go.
I like to hide his face from us sometimes.
And you can get all of us news, NEWZ, at yergz.com. And if you send something to these guys there, I'll forward. Show notes and other info are available at yergs.com. Just spelled that one for you. And the parent company is Mastiff Media. But what's cool about that is .media is also an ending on URLs. So that's why I put the www there, because so people know that's actually a URL. www.mastiff.media is where you can get all the different places that we're at. The 4. Yep. All right, Blake, we'll see you next week. Blake's peacing out. Matt, you got to run too. I can wrap it up.
Handle the last 8 minutes of the show for us.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, finally, we're going to have some common sense spoken with you gone. It's about time.
Yeah.
All right. See y'all.
All right, man. So yeah, Mastiff Media, that's a new site. It's basically my big link tree. It'll be more functional in the coming weeks. But so there's that. So I got a polish for the new 4 stations. I need somebody here doing this for me, like a producer.
Yep. You know, I have a suggestion for you, but we will talk about that off air.
Oh, speaking of off air, I needed to get. I'll message him and I'll put it in our group chat. The one consultant that is working with me wants to talk with the 3 of us. So I got to get your schedules. And
sure, let's do it.
That she's really great. Been a huge help to me already, and just I don't know that it's going to be regular with all 3 of us. I mean, I'm happy to make that happen if she wants to, and if you guys have the ability or availability. But yeah, Susan, surname, and she's been pretty awesome. But yeah, so what are you feeling right now? Like polls wise, about how are the chances going?
Oh, for me,
do you really think it's as close as the polls are saying?
For Kamala and Trump.
Trump, yeah.
No, I think it's going to be a landslide for Kamala.
I'm not into, and I guess we have to define landslide. I think, and I've been saying, this. I've been saying that it's going to be rather positive. If 2022 was supposed to be a red tide and was just a pink splash, this will be at minimum a blue cannonball, maybe a blue tide.
Yeah, I think honestly, Democrats are going to hold, or Democrats are going to take the House, hold the Senate, and take back the presidency. And I think she's going to win the popular vote and the Electoral College by a very good margin.
Pennsylvania is like 5 points now.
5 points, Kamala?
Yeah.
That doesn't surprise me. I mean, look, Fetterman won. We have Shapiro there. So I mean, it's a blue state anymore, and people just have to start realizing that it is a blue state. And so,
do you think the swing state status is going to go? Because for the longest time, you did not get the White House without Pennsylvania and Ohio.
Yeah. Ohio's out of that picture. I think that we're trying to start to bring it back a little bit, but I don't think that Trump has nothing to worry about in Ohio, in my opinion.
Right.
I mean, obviously, I would like to be proven wrong, but I just cannot see it being close. And honestly, I don't think it's going to be close if it's Trump. To be honest with you,
you think he's going to win? If he wins, it's going to be decisive.
I just can't see it being I just can't see it being a split. Like, oh, it's going to be like Biden. It wasn't even close, man. The popular vote like super overshadowed it. Like he won the electoral vote. It wasn't like we were staying up all night trying to figure it out. It wasn't like Hillary and Trump in 2016, where it was just like, oh wait, what's going on here? This is a little different, and it was close and it was coming up. And I remember standing there watching TV. think it was like 11 o'clock at night, and it was just like I was like, wait, is this what's going on? But like it wasn't like that with Biden. It wasn't like, and I don't think it's gonna be like that now. I think people are really, they know exactly what's going to happen, and it's going to be about getting out to vote. And right now, with the motivation, I think, of the Democrats, they're going to get out to vote a lot better. I don't see why people are motivated for Republicans. I don't hear Republicans saying that they're motivated.
Yeah, so here's something that I shared, and I've talked about it here also, but this is something that I've shared recently. That it was kind of like their Oprah aha moment. I've been saying about, not following the polls, instead follow other things in life, one of which was things like social media. I'm seeing more pro-Kamala people trolling people on Trump than I am vice versa, meaning that to me, there's a bigger movement on social media for defending the Kamala Harris movement. But the other thing that I think is huge is when I started looking around the Tampa area in 2020, and then after the election in 2021, I saw all the leftovers
of signs and stuff like that. Yeah.
All over the place.
Yeah.
And when I say signs, I'm not talking about the 18 by 24 in somebody's front yard.
Right. We're talking about the banners and
I'm
shit like that.
talking about the 8 by 12 on the side of a building.
Right.
8 to 12 feet on the side of a building.
Yeah, you don't see that anymore.
Is none of that.
Yeah, you don't see that. You don't see that, but you also don't see that. Yeah, that's why I'm saying, look, it's kind of like the Biden. I feel the same way for Trump right now from the Republicans is like how we thought about Biden. And it was like we will hold our nose and maybe vote for Biden, but it was more of a like, I'm not excited. I'm not going to go out there and knock doors and try to convince people why Biden's great. I'm not doing that because I know in my heart that I'm not believing it myself. Like,
here's the difference between Biden and Trump. When Biden was there, at least he was somebody we wanted to hear, whether it was for a goofy gaffe that he was going to say, or, God forbid, a president says something intelligent.
Yeah, but that's not what I'm saying. What I'm trying to say is, like, you still have to go to people's doors and you have to convince them why you're voting for Biden and why they're going to vote for Biden. And you have to do the same thing with Trump. And Trump is saying the same. But even the goofy gaffes are the things that make us not want to go to the doors. That's what I'm saying. It's not, we didn't want to hear that from him. And the same thing with Trump. We don't want to hear that from him.
Trump doesn't have anything positive. And in fact, people are actually tired of the separation, the anger, and everything that he's been doing for now 10 years. And I think you're going to see a lot of swing votes of the independents. What other election have you seen more than 200? I think it's now pushing almost 300 notable Republicans from around the country, or notable members of any party from around the country, saying we're jumping ship because our guys suck.
That has never happened. And a lot of people are trying to equate that to of being like part of this establishment military industrial complex. Like that's what the whole Cheney thing. And you know what?
No,
Cheney's not good people, but the Cheney's not the good guy here. But this is also looking at the alternative, which is Trump and a Trump presidency. And I think a lot of people are just saying that we just can't do this.
Right. And that's another reason that I'm considering that this is not going to be close.
Yeah, it's not going to be close. It's not going to be close. I think the thing is, a lot of people underrate or what's the word? They push off. They think people are stupid. A lot of these things think people are dumb, and people look at issues, people look at candidates, and I'm not talking about just sometimes the individual is too busy, but as a whole, people look at the candidates, they hear what they have to say, and then they make a choice, and they make choices that are usually good. And because we're talking about 150 million voters or 170 million voters that are going to go out and vote, that are going to make a choice.
By the way, only half the population.
Right. Well, I mean, there's a lot of kids there as well, and that can't vote. And we got to have better voter turnout. But what I'm saying is, when you have numbers like that, you statistically get common sense because it's just the sheer numbers. Like people are paying attention.
Right. All right, man. I just missed a bunch of phone calls to my direct line, which means they're not callers trying to call in.
All right. I'll talk to you soon.
And we're there
next week.
No, I'll definitely again. Yep. Great show. See you again, bud. All right, everybody. That is it. We are, like I said, I just missed a bunch of calls while we were doing that last segment. So it is 102, 502. If you're, no, what is it? 602. Yeah. If you're still in London. And let's see, 10:02 a.m. out there on the left coast. That's it. I will see you Monday. Jane will be back with me as well for the second hour, and Mars will be checking in. That's it for today. Have a great weekend. We will see you. This has been Up the Middle.